Hello, welcome to my story. I'm starting my horror and detective story. I shouldn't be alive. If the government knew I was telling this story, they would erase me just like they erased the others. I used to be an FBI field agent assigned to missing person cases. But in 2012, I was pulled into something darker, something off the record. That case was logged as File 77B, but inside the bureau, it had another name, the Hellgate Project. The file was classified above top secret. Access was restricted to internal black sites locations, so dark that most of the agency doesn't even know they exist. I should have walked away. I should have refused the assignment. But when they told me an entire government facility vanished, along with 51 personnel, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I wanted to know the truth. They told me it was a simple recovery. Mission: locate the site, retrieve whatever data was left, and leave. But from the moment we received the coordinates, I knew something was wrong. The location didn't officially exist. It wasn't on any maps. It wasn't in any satellite database. In fact, it was buried beneath a restricted military forest in Montana, inside a zone where GPS signals died and radio contact failed. We were a team of 4, Agent Miller, Surveillance Agent Harlow, Technical Systems, Agent Diaz, Security, and me, Lead Investigator, when we reached the last known coordinates. There was nothing, just dead trees, silent wind, and a feeling that made my nerves scream. Harlow scanned the area and found a large metal hatch buried in the dirt. A hidden entrance. Someone had tried to seal it shut from the outside, using welded iron plates. Whatever was inside, someone tried to keep it locked in. I looked over at the others and saw it in their eyes. They felt it too. Something evil was buried here. If we turned back right, then maybe we would still be alive. But we didn't. Instead, we broke the seal, dragged the hatch open, and stepped into File 77B, a place that should never have been found again. And that was the moment our lives ended. The metal hatch groaned when we pulled it open, like something had been sealed inside for decades. A cold draft spilled out from the darkness below, and with it came a smell I will never forget, a mix of rust, chemicals, and something else. Something rotten. We climbed down a rusted ladder into a narrow access shaft. The deeper we went, the colder it became, not normal cold, but an unnatural dead cold that crawled into your bones. After about 40 feet, we reached a heavy reinforced door marked with a single warning, Restricted Bioresearch Site Level Omega. I had never heard of a Level Omega clearance. Neither had Miller. Harlow tried to laugh it off as military paranoia, but he didn't convince anyone, not even himself. We forced the door open. What we saw looked like an abandoned underground facility, long steel hallways, flickering emergency lights, shattered glass panels, and dried streaks of black on the floor that looked disturbingly like blood. The place was silent, no machines running, no ventilation, no signs of life. Diaz checked his comms. "Radio's dead," he said. Of course it was. We moved deeper, sweeping each corridor. Old wall signs indicated departments, but many were destroyed, deliberately scratched off. Only a few words could still be read. Experimental wing, containment lab, cryo storage, subject quarters. Subjects, Harlow muttered. Subjects for what? We found a security station and tried to access internal logs, but every file had been wiped. Not deleted, physically destroyed. Like someone smashed every drive with a hammer. Why erase everything? Why hide this place? We kept moving until we found a sealed bulkhead door with deep claw marks across it. Human claws don't do that. Human hands don't bend metal. Something had tried to get out. Suddenly, boom, a loud metallic echo roared from deep inside the facility. We froze. That wasn't an echo, that was movement. Diaz raised his weapon. Someone's here. I didn't believe that. Not anymore. Whatever was inside this place, it wasn't human. We followed the sound that echoed through the facility, moving quietly and staying close to the walls. Every step felt heavier than the last. None of us spoke, but I knew we were all thinking the same thing. This place wasn't abandoned. Something was still here. We found the operations hall, a wide central chamber filled with broken consoles and overturned tables. Papers littered the floor, most of them burned or torn. Miller found a file cabinet that hadn't been destroyed. Most drawers were empty, but in the bottom one, we found something. A classified folder labeled Project Revenant. Inside were documents stamped with military seals, signed by generals, not scientists. The project summary was short. Objective: development of bioenhanced organisms for combat deployment. Primary method: viral neural reanimation. Status: classified unknown. Warning: subjects show signs of awareness and hostility. Termination ordered. Reanimation, Harlow said. Like bringing dead things back. No one answered. The deeper we read, the worse it got. These weren't medical studies. These weren't even weapon tests. They were trying to build soldiers who couldn't die. Soldiers who could survive fatal wounds. Soldiers who could fight without fear, because they had no soul left to lose. Miller opened an attached notebook handwritten by one of the facility doctors, Dr. R. Keller. It wasn't a lab journal. It was a confession. Day 41. Subject 12 does not respond to pain. Its nervous system is dead, yet it moves. Day 67. Subjects do not sleep. They do not die. They must be destroyed. Day 112? We made a mistake. They are not reanimated. They are occupied. Harlow's hands trembled. Occupied by what? Before I could answer, the lights snapped off. We were swallowed by total darkness. My flashlight began to flicker like the battery was draining, but it wasn't. Something was interfering with the power. Diaz whispered, "Do you hear that?" I did. Breathing, not from us. From the shadows. Slow, wet, hungry. Miller aimed his flashlight down the corridor, and his hands started shaking. "Dear God," he said, "there's something in here with us." Miller's flashlight beam shook as he pointed it toward the far end of the hallway. At first I thought his hands were trembling from fear. Then I realized it wasn't his hand shaking. The beam itself was shaking like the air was bending. A shape moved in the darkness. Tall, thin, wrong. It stepped into the light slowly, as if it had forgotten how legs were meant to move. Its joints bent the wrong way. Its spine was too long. Its skin was dead gray, stretched tight over bone. It didn't walk, it lurched, like a puppet being dragged by invisible strings. Its head turned toward us, cracking like broken glass. Its eyes reflected the flashlight beam, but there were no pupils. Its lips peeled back unnaturally, as if trying to imitate a smile. The result was not human. It looked like a corpse trying to understand life. "Miller," I whispered, "don't move." He moved, he stepped back. His foot hit loose metal. It clanged loud, too loud. The creature snapped its head toward him with a sickening crack. Then it charged. It sprinted toward us with impossible speed, slamming Miller into the wall and lifting him with inhuman strength. Miller screamed as it crushed his shoulder like paper. "Fire!" Diaz shouted. We opened fire. Bullets hit the creature, but it didn't scream. It barely reacted. Its skin absorbed the impact as if its body didn't understand pain. It turned toward me, and for the first time, I saw its face up close. There was something moving underneath its skin, like something else was inside, it pushing to get out. Miller's scream turned into choking. The creature grabbed him by the Joanne. I heard the sound of bones snapping. A wet, tearing sound followed, then silence. The thing dropped what was left of his headless body. Diaz shouted, "Move, now." We ran. We didn't look back, but I could still hear it behind us, those wet footsteps, and that horrible breathing. It wasn't running anymore. It was following, and it wanted us to know it wasn't done yet. We ran through the endless metallic corridors, turning blindly at every junction. The creature didn't chase fast, it didn't have to. It knew we were trapped. This facility was built like a maze. Whatever they created here, they never intended for it to get out. We burst into a large laboratory chamber, the biggest room yet. Broken containment pods lined the walls, shattered from the inside. Every pod had labels. Subject 01, failed subject 02, failed subject 03, escaped subject 07. Unknown, subject 12, terminated, and then I saw a larger container, cracked open like an eggshell. Subject 0 prototype inside was nothing but black fluid and torn restraints. Diaz looked terrified. "This was never a research station," he said. "This was a biological weapon factory." Harlow was pale. "Then why didn't they destroy it?" I saw the answer before I even said it. Because they couldn't control it. At the center of the room was a console still running, on emergency power. A single file was still active. I opened it. Project Revenant Primary Command Protocol. Revenants cannot be controlled. They can only be contained. In case of breach, initiate return command. There was a single button under the message. Recall, all subjects do it. Harlow yelled, "We send them back to containment." I pressed the button, and that was my second mistake. A low hum began to vibrate through the walls. Then the speakers crackled. Return command accepted. All subjects returning? Returning, Diaz said. Returning from where? Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not one creature, not two, dozens. They were all coming back. Every hallway thundered with claws, bone, and rotten flesh. They poured in from every direction. The recall command didn't send them to containment. It brought them home, Harlow screamed. Diaz fired until he was out of bullets. The creatures swarmed him, ripping, tearing, devouring. I ran. I didn't escape because I was brave. I escaped because I was a coward. I sealed the bulkhead doors behind me. I left them all to die. I shouldn't be alive. But there's one more thing I didn't tell anyone. When I escaped the facility, covered in blood, I found a mirror inside the emergency chamber. I looked at my reflection, and I saw it. Something moving beneath my skin. Project Revenant is not over. I stumbled out of the emergency tunnel and collapsed on the frozen ground outside, gasping for air. I thought I had escaped. I thought I had survived. I thought I was human. Then I heard voices behind me, not the creatures' voices. Calm, controlled, human voices. There were men in black tactical uniforms standing outside the hidden exit. No insignia, no flags, no unit numbers, just black helmets and rifles. They had been waiting. Subject 0 has exited the facility, one of them said into a headset. Retrieval confirmed. Subject 0. I tried to stand, but my body wouldn't respond. My muscles locked, my vision blurred. I collapsed as two soldiers approached and held me down. One of them injected me in the neck with something cold. What did you do to me?" I screamed. The soldier looked down at me. "We didn't do anything to you," he said. We just activated what was already inside you. Then I heard it again, that wet sound under my skin. My blood stopped. My bones vibrated. No, 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 no. I was never the survivor of Project Revenant. I was the prototype,